All right, this time we're going to resume the meeting of May 1st, 2017. Councilmember Gillio, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, this time we're going to administer the oath of office to our new council member. You want to step down and meet Christine on the floor.
Turn it off.
Repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Jim Gillio,
Do solemnly swear
solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the great state of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the great state of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will,
and that I will,
well and faithfully,
well and faithfully,
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Did you want to get a picture with your family? While you, yeah, absolutely. Hey, this is it.
They're all dressed up, so.
Family, come down. Excellent.
Like a mugshot, huh, Chief?
Excellent. You didn't have to leave, though. All right, roll call, please.
Councilmember Gillio,
Here.
Councilmember Clower,
Here.
Mayor Velasquez,
Here.
Councilmember Friend,
Present.
Councilmember Luna,
Present.
City Manager Rivera,
Present.
City Attorney Diaz,
Present.
Chief of Police Westrick,
Here.
and the record will show City Clerk Tom Graves is absent.
Okay. Verification of agenda posting.
The amended agenda for the City Council of the City of Hollister meeting of May 1st, 2017 was posted on the bulletin board at City Hall on April 27th, 2017 at 5:03 p.m. per Government Code Section 54954.2.
Thank you. City Attorney, do you want to report out from closed session?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. No action was taken on items Roman numeral 2, small little I, and small 3 little I. As to the second matter, the City Council directed and instructed the City Attorney to engage in negotiations with regards to the property owner.
Thank you very much. Tonight we have a proclamation for Water Awareness Month. There you are.
Step back. I was going to take over.
I know you are. Come on over here. Whereas California arid and semi-arid climate is ambitious and evolving economy, and its continually growing population have combined to make shortages and conflicting demands the norm, the rising concern of climate change could limit the state and federal government's water infrastructure due to less snowpack. The health, welfare, and quality of life for our community depends on a reliable, high-quality water supply. And now, therefore, the City of Hollister does proclaim May 2017 as Water Awareness Month and urge all citizens, businesses, industries, institutions, and public agencies to review their water use and water systems for water use efficiency and to contact their water supplier for water-saving ideas and assistance.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to say a few words.
This is absolutely, it's all yours now. This is for you.
No, I'd just like to say that 2 years ago I was standing up here and our water supply was looking really bleak. We had a 0% allocation for ag on our imported water, only 20% for municipalities. This year we have 100% on both those categories, which is really good to know. But I want to remind people, not only did we have 6 years of drought, but we had a bureaucratic drought as well because they limit pumping through the Delta. This year, like I said, we're going to get 100% allocation, but that doesn't mean next year we're going to be back to an allocation that's less than that. So we still need to conserve our water. The new treatment plants that are going up here, the one at the West Hills treatment plant off Union Road, they've already retrofitted the LaSalle plant. Those are surface water treatment plants, and that's going to make our water quality much better. So we need that imported water to operate those plants. So we still need to be careful with our water usage, protect our groundwater basin. And I want to encourage people, if they haven't done so, to call the Water Resources Association. That's the agency I'm from. We can help you, especially right now. The reason we do this in May is because irrigation, we start seeing it start to peak up about August or so, then it goes back down. But right now, it's irrigations are starting to be put on, especially after a hot day like today. So if you haven't turned your irrigation system on for a while, give us a call. We'll come out and check it, inspect it, make sure it's running efficiently. We can set the controller for you. And my agency can be reached at 637-4378. My name is Sean Novak, or you can go to our website at wrasbc.org. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much. All right, we're going to move to the consent calendar. Are there any items council would like to pull?
I would like to pull number 2 and number 5.
2 and 5.
Mr.
Any
Mayor,
others?
I'd like to pull number 3.
Number 3.
I would like to pull number 4. I would like to pull number 9, number 10, and number 12.
Okay. Are there any from the public?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, item A6.
A6. All right. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the consent calendar as amended.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Aye.
I'm sorry, who made the second?
Councilmember Luna.
Thank you.
We'll move to item A1.2. Councilman Julio, you have a question on that item?
I need to recuse myself for this item. I had the city had purchased a total of $51.45 from my business back in March, and I'm listed in the register.
Okay. All right. Is there any public comment?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there a second? Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item A3.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I want to refer to the claim against the city, number 8. And I read through the claim, and I have a question, clarification, if legal can give me that clarification. When there's a claim against the city, and it's coming from a tenant, should the landlord be informed, or was the landlord informed in this case?
The first question, it would depend on the nature of the claim and also specifically the basis in the legal concept, if you will, of the claim being made against the city. So if it's that's all I can say without going into the particulars.
And I think with this particular case, as we've discussed, if the tenant in this particular manner is responsible for damages to the unit or to the facility or the place of residence, more than likely, then the claim should be filed by the tenant, and then there should be an acknowledgement from the landlord. But nevertheless, it should come from the tenant.
Okay, and that's the way it is right now. But I really believe that in this case, the landlord, owners of, the apartments should be informed before it moves forward.
We'll look into it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Is there any speaker cards on this item?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item A4.
I need to talk to them. I just wanted to bring this up, that it's a safer grant, but it's a little different than what we talked about at the last meeting. It's not a personnel thing. This is to purchase a safety trailer, correct?
A safety trailer, correct.
So I just wanted to make sure that was brought out, that it was not
Yeah, it's
something
not
we're
for
going to be using
personnel.
to hire personnel. It's just something that is going to be used to, and it's only going to be used for our fire department, right? It's not going to be loaned out to Mountain
Yeah,
View
that's
or-
correct. We're putting in all the funds and the money, and we saw the wear that happened to them, and I want to be greedy and keep it for us. We have enough work to do here, so it'll be bilingual outreach. We have bilingual personnel that'll assist with that. Outreach, all ages from senior citizens down to preschools. And we even increased it from what it was before, the capabilities, because we're also including an injury prevention group, which includes seat belts, bike helmets, firearm safety, mini blinds, and water safety, in addition to the carbon monoxide and home fire safety.
And the $7,000 is our portion of the grant, correct?
Yeah, that's what I was saying too.
That's 5%. So that's a pretty
5%
expensive
plus the
trailer.
1%. It's a great deal. I hope he gets on it and gets to work.
So that's a $150,000 trailer.
It's probably about 125. 125, what we're looking at. But it's a great deal.
Well, I understand that. I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that we're not hiring people with this. This is for that.
No, not for personnel only. It's a totally different grant than the SAFER grant. It's not a personnel grant. This is for the equipment for fire prevention.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Any speakers?
No, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
Make a motion that we approve
Second?
item 4.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Move to item A5. Councilmember Julio?
Yeah. Mr. Chambliss, thank you for coming forward. I had a few questions. I read your staff report, and I noted that the estimate was approximately $24,000, and we're asking for approval for $35,000. Can we talk about that a little bit, please?
Certainly.
Thank you.
What this item is back in March, we had a inspection of the underground fuel tanks at the airport by the State Water Board, which was first. Apparently, they've now moved into this area too, and they were going through our county. They also inspected the ones at the yard. As a result of that inspection, we received notice of violations for both sites. The yard notice of violation was a couple paperwork issues that were resolved quickly and without much expense. The issue at the airport is more involved. And what it boils down to is our 20-year-old leak detection system on the underground tanks they don't like. They go further to make the statements that it is not compliant to be used with aviation products, but if you go to the manufacturer of our 20-year-old system, it says it can be, but it's not preferred. So in order to solve all the problems and do this, we're going to upgrade the leak detection system to the modern world, 20 years into the future, and it is designed to work with avgas. As part of the quote, the exclusions were if anything's corroded, breaks, etc. With CAL FIRE showing up at the airport next week and being fully staffed, fully operational, we can't afford any time for the fuel tanks to be down as a regional safety issue. So what I'm asking is for an extra $9,000 that I don't intend to use, just in case there's a bolt or something that breaks down in there, so we can get the gas tanks back up and running with a minimum of fuss and delay, because we can't have them down with CAL FIRE here. That's a regional safety issue.
Great, thank you. I just want to make sure we keep the contractor to the original amount as close as possible and then go from there. I appreciate that. Thank you
No
very
problem.
much. Motion to...
Let me
sorry.
ask a question.
Go ahead.
The vendor that's selling the fuel, are they paying any portion of this cost? I mean, that's,
So per their lease agreement for the property that their building sits on, they are responsible for anything from ground level and above. We are responsible for the cost from ground level below. So their portion of the cost is about $9,600, and once it's complete, we'll send them a bill and deal with it that way.
so $9,600 part of this?
Out of the 24. So ours is about 16 total cost, but we need to get it done, so front the full amount, and then we'll get the $9,000 back from the vendor.
Okay, so as was pointed out in the question earlier, the additional funds, if they're not used, will
Remain in the fund balance.
come back. All right. Okay, is there any
Could you-
questions from the public?
Could you let us know how that works out?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, Mr.
questions
Mayor.
on public? All right, is there a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. We'll go on to item A6
That was the
from the public.
Marty Richmond?
Good evening, Marty Richard from Hollister. Since I'm assuming that the mayor will take this position on as delegate to the Community Choice Energy Program, or someone else will, I want to discuss that for a minute. As you know, I supported the program when it was up before you because I'm for energy independence. I noticed there was a large article in the Mercury News within the last week of another enormous increase in PG&E costs. Remember what happened last year? Well, it's happening this year again in spades. And there's also going to be a penalty for people who use too much energy. At the same time, the governor's office has asked PV2 to cut the size of their operation down in Pinocchio Valley in half. Now, I remember my specific words when I got up here last time, which is having alternate energy is great. I support it, provided we generate it. Well, we don't have enough now. Can you imagine how short we're going to be if the environmental lobby keeps telling us we can't build any? And 60% of the people who are going into these alternative programs are opting for renewable energy that's not available, and when it is available, can't be transmitted because there are no transmission space. And you know what happens to the price of something when it's in high demand and in short supply. At the same time, the solar panels, as good as they are, do not work at night at all because there's no sunshine. And so there's a critical shortage of storage facilities for this energy. And because of that, what happens is PG&E has to maintain all their infrastructure. They also run the transmission system as a secondary runner of the transmission system. There's a multi-generational thing that does it, and they have to pay for all the things they bought in the past. So if you take a 30-year lease on a house and you don't move out of the house, you still owe on the mortgage. You can't stop paying. All I'm going to say is we are looking at a potential enormous increase in the cost of merely turning on your light switch here within the next 2 years, all because we're not being allowed to build renewable energy projects. This makes no sense at all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Just for clarification, Councilmember Friend will be the appointed person. I will be the
Second.
alternate, yes. Councilmember Friend?
I just wanted to take off on Marty's deal that 25% of PG&E's available transmission power is going to be turned off in 2 years. They're making us shut down Diablo Canyon. That's 25% of the load currently used by PG&E is going away. So that has to be made up somewhere. This year we're going to have a great hydro year, so on, but down the road, you're absolutely right. If the environmentalists keep shutting down these plants because of for whatever reason, whether it's an animal or environmental or whatever, the state will be buying everything from Canada, like they do 40% of their stuff now. So you're absolutely right. It's not going to get cheaper. And for the alternative energy people to tell everybody, we'll sell you green power cheaper, that's not going to be true. It's not going to be true. I understand that.
And that's why we have an expert from PG&E, former career, to be on that
And
that
the
board.
only reason I wanted to be on it was because it's just now starting. And if we don't get our 2 cents worth in now, we're going to end up with all of our mountains covered with solar panels. I don't think we want to do that.
All right. Do we have any other speakers?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Move on to item A9.
Good evening. Item A9 is a resolution of the City Council that would approve a controlled access highway agreement with the state of California. This is the one of the many items, one of the many actions that will need to be taken place for State Route 25. What this does is essentially those items, once the route's built and relocated, those items those portions of the existing State Route 25 that are within the city limits will become city right-of-way. Those items or those portions of the road that are new that will be on the controlled access agreement will be state highway. This really affects a very small portion of the entire Route 25, and because most of it will be affected by the county, and they will be asked to pass a very similar resolution.
Okay.
The reason I brought this up was the question that I had in my mind when I read this was, does that mean when the city takes ownership of the portion in the city limits, does that allow us to allow access to and from that we don't have now?
We can do that. It'll be very similar to when the city took ownership of San Benito Street. We'll be able to do what we would like to do on that road.
So if a future developer wanted to build something, and right now they would not be able to enter or exit onto 25, onto the bypass especially. Does that mean we could now allow that?
We need to be careful which part of Highway 25 we're talking about, Councilman Friend, because Highway 25, that you're still not going to get access, say, on the bypass portion of Highway 25. This is only for future stuff. You have a map in front of you that we provided. So the access agreement that David's talking about is that currently, say, by the Best Western, right? A portion of that will be in the city of Hollister. If the city of Hollister continues to annex property out there, the state will relinquish that part of the old State Highway 25, and then you can be given access to property owners adjacent to that. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be able to give property owners access or egress off of the current Highway 25 bypass, because that's always going to remain under Caltrans jurisdiction.
Then
Is that right?
Why would
Yes.
we do this?
Because there's as you can tell, there's a frontage road. The existing Highway 25 right now becomes sort of a, lack of a better term, a frontage road from, say, the Best Western all the way to Chapin. And that the portions that are actually in the city of Hollister, that future road could be under yours and or the county's jurisdiction for ingress egress.
So if we wanted to light Wright Road, we could do that.
Well, Wright Road, that's in the county. Wright Road, so Wright Road on either side of the existing Highway 25 is all in the county. So that's the county's jurisdiction when all this occurs. If we expand our city boundaries and we are taking in that portion of Wright Road, then when the abandonment occurs or the relinquishment occurs of any of those parts that are within this state Highway 25, that would become city, city right of way. We would not be able to control access on the new Route 25 as depicted in one of these maps on the accepted alignment. That would be Caltrans' responsibility.
Okay.
So the idea with the new road is just south of the existing, but it's going to limit ingress, egress, access to it so the traffic can flow smoother. And that would be a frontage road. The existing road would be a frontage road.
That's correct.
Okay.
Councilmember Clyre?
Yeah, a couple things. I think this is another good opportunity when if it seems like we need a visual aid, then maybe we'd go with the visual aid first off. And I know we've got it now, but it was hard to read through the packet and understand what was going on. The second thing, and I think I know the answer to this question, is will the state be doing any improvements to the roads before they hand them over to us?
There's still going to need to be a relinquishment agreement that occurs for all the state highways when they get relinquished to a local agency, whether it be city or county. So that will be one of the other items that will come across our staff's desk and ultimately to the city council. I wouldn't see that happening for a number of years.
Okay, but is it likely that they would do anything before deciding to just give it to us? Because when we got San Marino Street, I think we had to give them like a brand new road to their standards, and they're going to give us an old, terrible road that's not to our standards.
The expectation would be that, and what happens in 10 years from now, it may change, but in today's date, the expectation is that the road would be given to us in a like-new condition. That's what happened on 156 when it was relinquished to the city. They did an overlay. That was almost 20 years ago, and when it was relinquished to us, it was a like-new condition. On San Benito Street, Nash, Tres Pinos, they sealed it. They put it in a better condition than what it was before they relinquished it to us, and so we did get some improvements on it. Maybe it wasn't exactly what we expected, but those will be a subject of discussion when that time comes.
What about everything else, like curb, gutter, storm drain, lights, sidewalks? I mean, because you're talking about an area that we would possibly be allowing development at. Is that just going to be passed on to the developer?
Yeah, at this point in time today, I wouldn't expect that, but that doesn't mean it won't happen when it happens. I mean, those are all items that we'll be able to discuss with them when that time comes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Any speaker cards?
Mr. Mayor?
Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carries.
Thank you.
We'll go to item 810.
Yeah, I brought this one discussed because, as Kevin pointed out, just because our governor thinks that we're out of the drought, I don't think the city should be just turning on the water spout. And I would be against the city of Hollister declaring the drought and water emergency over. It may be temporarily shelved, but it's not over. I think the people of Hollister have done a great job. We asked them to cut back I believe it was 25%, and they cut back 29% or 30% at one time. So I think the city of Hollister and the people of Hollister have done their part of it, and I think they're learning to live with 25 to 30% less in the water usage. And I would hate for this to all of a sudden open the spigot and we get right back into a drought situation next year or a year after, and we have to redo this resolution. I think we should just leave it like it is and stay under the emergency allotments that we're in now.
Okay. Councilmember Clower?
City Manager Avra, I had this same comment last time, and then you told me something, I don't remember what it was, of why.
It's probably a lie.
Do you remember what you told me? And that kind of changed my mind on it?
Well, there's a couple of things, and I don't mean, and Sean is here to ask, and Danny as well, but I think as long as that, what we're really asking for is to stay sort of consistent with what the state of California is doing and their drought regulations. It affects a lot of things. So it affects our parks, it affects our schools, it affects our meetings and things of that nature. So by declaring the drought over, it allows us to go back and at least resume some of the watering efforts that we used to have prior to the drought going on. Of course, Sean is and the community itself is encouraging to continue sort of the conservation efforts that we have been experiencing over the last couple of years. People should notice the conservation efforts in their bills. Their utility bills should be quite a bit lower because we have reduced almost 30% in between Sunny Slope County Water District and the city of Hollister. I'm not sure what I may have told you to convince you earlier to kind of again be sort of consistent with what the state is asking us to do, or what the state is, or what the governor has said. But I think for us, I think we'd like to be able to start turning our sprinklers back on, on the parks and get those back up to a healthy state. So,
thank you.
I do want to point out it still does prohibit washing down walkways, roadways, parking lots. Washing your car without a shut-off nozzle on it. So there's still a lot of items in here to help us conserve water. But I think it's important for us to, as a council and city, to really look for ways to do exactly what you're talking about, to conserve water, find more, especially with any new building going on. We don't want to go back to the old ways, your point.
I agree. Well, and the other thing that I wanted to point out is under the emergency order, that gives Sean the ability to enforce that. And if if a neighbor calls somebody and says, hey, my neighbor waters 5 nights a week and just lets it run down the street, Sean can do something about that. If we take the emergency part of that off, I'm concerned that he would not have that ability to do
It still prohibits that from overwatering.
So I guess what I'm asking, maybe we should relook at our current regulations and make sure they follow where we were demanding on the state, and then maybe we take the emergency off and just make it that's our standard usage.
We have certain prohibitions in here that would conserve water and penalties to go along with that, so we can't enforce against that.
I give you my perspective on this. Trying to change people's behavior is always can be problematic. And what I worry about with this is it's like the boy that cried wolf. When we really do have a severe emergency and we ask people to step up, like lessen their water use 25% like we did 2 years ago, people are going to go, they say that all the time, And I'm really proud of the community because they did reach like 30% in 2015. Last year we had voluntary conservation. We asked for 15% reduction, and we're up almost 20% reduction because people get it. So that's my only concern is when we really need to have them tighten the belt. I just think they might just say, it's just, more messages from you guys, So that's my big concern. And like you say, the water waste provisions prohibit the water running down the street. You can't water after 48 hours of rain within 48 hours of a rainstorm. You can't use a hose to wash down a driveway. You're supposed to use a broom, things like that. And I know Sunny Slopes adopted the water waste as well. So the city's going to do that as well. So.
Well, I guess then if you're okay with us taking that off, then.
Well, I want to stress that water conservation is a way of life for all Californians. I've lived here my whole life, and when I grew up, there were 16 million people in the state. There's 39 million now, and they're projecting 50 million by 2050. Same amount of water. Here locally, late 90s, we're at 220 gallons per person per day. Now we're down to 105. So our efficiency has really increased.
If you could speak into the microphone.
I'm sorry. Yeah. So our efficiency has really increased as far as the way we use water. The new construction that you see, you have limited landscapes, all low-flow fixtures inside of them. So we're doing really good on the efficiency. We need to step it up right now. It's, landscaping is what I'm stressing. But my biggest concern is when we do have a really bad drought or our water's cut off from imported water, we ask people to tighten their belt, that they'll step up. And I just worry by having us at this high alert all the time, people will kind of not take it seriously. So that's just my 2 cents.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Councilmember Gilio?
Actually, Sean covered everything I wanted to cover, and you did as well, Mr. Mayor. There still are pretty tight regulations and enforcement as well. Thanks.
Councilmember Clower?
Yeah, the point that the city manager made last time was that if Sunny Slope made the decision to change their regulations and we didn't, then somebody on this side of the street would have certain rules and somebody on the other side of the street would have certain rules.
Absolutely.
And that was it.
Oh, brilliant plan.
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah. I have a little issue. San Juan kind of marches into their own beat over there, so we've had some confusion over that. So.
Okay. Do we have any speaker cards?
No, Mr. Mayor?
All right, is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Aye. 4-1. We'll move to item A12.
All right, thanks, Sean.
Good to see everybody tonight. When I read this, I thought, did we just plant the trees? They weren't there when they let out the contract?
We haven't planted trees yet. They've
Well,
just done, go ahead.
When we contracted to do this work, the trees were there.
The trees were there. We
And now
removed
they're
the
coming
trees.
back and saying, oh, what, you want us to move the trees out of the way?
No, no, no.
The trees were the problem. The roots were the problem.
The additional money is to continue removing the tree stumps, and there's concrete that's blocking, there's concrete in the planter strips that's not allowing them to get to remove the stumps. So they just need to finish removing the stumps, then they're going to start the tree planting.
I understand that, but
Okay.
what I'm saying is that those stumps were there when we let the contract out.
The problems were there.
The
Not
problems.
stumps.
These are trees that we, as part of the sidewalk program, these are trees that we removed, and now we're doing the stump grinding process. And now, once the stump grinding process is complete, when we start to replant the park strip, we'll be planting them to our new specs,
Right.
where they'll have root barriers and everything else so that they don't cause a problem for sidewalks and the curb and gutter. So these are trees that we root pruned as part of the sidewalk improvement project, and now that and those ones that we couldn't save, we had to cut, and then we are removing the stumps. So this is just a small piece of that last little bit of work.
And I think what he's saying, it caught my attention too, was when the company gave the proposal, the bid, the problem of the sidewalk and different issues was there to see. And now they're coming back and asking for an additional few dollars or few $1,000s to deal with those problem areas. So was that not addressed in that
Well,
walkthrough?
I think, and Renee can correct me if I'm wrong. I think a lot of those are when you originally go through and you give an estimate, you're not exactly sure what condition your tree is going to be in after they got root pruned. So if there was a dangerous tree that was a result of some root pruning, they obviously were going to take it out, and it may not have been included in the original price. So this is clearly additional work that we're asking them to do, or they did, just so that we didn't have a dangerous tree. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Did I say that right?
That's right.
Did I say that right?
You
Okay.
did.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Councilmember Luna?
Now, how long will it be before this job is completed?
They just, as soon as they remove the remaining stumps, they'll start the planning process. So they should be done by June,
In a
end of
month?
June.
So the 2,600, is that the set amount that is not going to require any more than that? So nobody will be coming back to ask us for another 2,500?
I hope not, but
I hope not.
that right now the 2,600 is just to complete the tree removal and stump grinding. We already have another appropriation for an additional $88,000 to do the tree planting. So I can't say that there won't be, because some additional trees had to be removed that we didn't anticipate removing. So there might be additional trees, but I won't know until we get into the project for the tree planting.
Okay, that was my question.
Okay. Do we have any questions from the public?
No, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against?
Aye.
4-1 vote. All right.
I'm
Move
sorry, who
forward.
made the motion? Carson, thank you.
Okay, time for public input. Members of the public may address the City Council on any matter within the City Council's jurisdiction that is not on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person, with a maximum of 30 minutes per subject. Speaker cards are available in the foyer and are to be completed and given to the city clerk before speaking. State law prohibits the City Council from discussing or taking action on any item which is not on the agenda. Do we have speaker cards?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Zaban Quesada.
Make sure it's perfect right there. So did I start up? So my name is Yvonne Quesada, and I'm an artist from San Diego County, Hollister, California. And I got a couple of things I just want to bring up. I was recently able to do my artwork. I was given permission right there. First of all, I was doing artwork behind 7-Eleven. And actually the owner of the property was not on my case about leaving. Matter of fact, the person that owns the 99-cent store said that the person that owned that property, I know it's person to person, but this is how it went. The person said that, hey, yeah, you can keep your property, your stuff there, do your artwork there, but you can't be doing it too much because the city's on my ass to give me more fines and stuff unless I get you out of there. So, of course, he has to make a move to tell me to leave. But then I get a little bypass, and I remember, Mr. Mayor, you came up to me, and you asked me I could do some artwork and take what I was doing over there at 7-Eleven and take it over there down to the 400 block, because from when I was, I stand really strong about, putting something that has to do with the art and the culture right there in the 400 block. I don't believe there should be residents there. I believe that, maybe like a 4-story, like YMCA or something, instead of in the shadows over there behind Kmart. They have a really good youth alliance right there, and YMCA is a very strong place in other cities. And that's just throwing it out there. But when I put my artwork out there, what do you know? My artwork's thrown away the next day. And I don't get that shit, man. I'm sorry with my language, but it's just BS, man. I also had permission from the property owner to be right next to the Metropolis and put my artwork up for display. I was given to the day of Wednesday. I was told by the fire marshal deputy chief, who happens to be residing right here, sitting down right here, Mr. Alvarez. I don't know if I'm saying your name right, sir, but this is the gentleman right here. He told me that I had, even though I had till Wednesday, we should start cleaning up Tuesday, which makes no sense because I had permission to be there till Wednesday. But at the same time, he wants to promote his nephew to me, who's also an artist here in Hollister. So I take that as a little bit of black market, guerrilla marketing. If anybody's in the marketing game, that's called guerrilla marketing a little bit. So I ain't paying no mind to that, and I play the tune, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm a struggling artist, and I'm a good-ass artist. And I'm a full-blown Phoenix bird when it comes to artwork, and I love color and all that. And I've been trying to get a chance out here to show my work, but I get harassed by the police every single day. That I get permission from the property people to do what I do. And again, and again, and again. Here come the white cards. Here come the questions. Here comes this. And how does that look for me as an artist that's trying to come up to a potential gallery owner or to potential investor looking at me saying, well, let's just take a look at this guy for a couple weeks or something like that. Always getting harassed by the police. I stopped a lot of my things in my life so I could get to where I need to go, and that's the top. Because I'm a full-blown artist, like I said. And it just really hurts my feelings as an artist when I'm trying to get there, and I got people just, putting more jump rope for me to jump through, because I'll go through them, because I love challenges. And I know when I get to the top as an artist that I'm going to be grateful for where I am. And I just want to let people know here at Hollister that that's what's going on out there. That's what's going on. I got videotape of my stuff getting thrown away. My artwork. My passion. Thrown away like nothing. At 9:00 a.m., where even the Metropolis, the owner was like, wow, it's kind of even giving no time to breathe. Didn't even let my artwork get any stretch, any breathing, nothing. Straight to the motherfucking garbage. I'm sorry.
Mr. Esteban,
I'm sorry
please,
about that.
Please don't.
I'm sorry. I just
We
want to
have
let people know, like,
families
I'm a full-blown
watching.
artist. My
We
name is
don't need
Yvonne.
that kind of language.
And I'm looking for a gallery to get into. And if anyone wants to take a chance on me, please look at my artwork behind the Quick Stop area. I'm staying at that little place up, so maybe I could talk with the property owner who gave me permission to be there because I'm keeping it up on track to make it into maybe something where people kick back for the 4th of July rally or something. You know what I mean? I'm just throwing it out there. I'm a full-blown artist. My name is Yvonne. I'm from San Diego County, Hollister, California. Thank you.
Jen Coulter. Charlene Van Roy.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. With regards to the homeless problem at Dunn Park, in addition to enforcement, we also need regular discussions at the city and county level that will lead to solutions. A partnership with an outside agency whose mission is to solve the homeless problem would bring another level of expertise to the table. One such organization, in case you haven't heard about it, is called Downtown Streets Team, currently operating in communities at Palo Alto, San Jose, Sunnyvale, San Rafael, and San Francisco. This organization believes in ending homelessness through the dignity of work, allowing the homeless to be part of the solution and not just the problem. The DST Work Experience Program empowers individuals and acts as a stepping stone into employment, housing, and a better life. Their Chief Program Officer, Chris Richardson, has extended an invitation for local stakeholders to attend their success team meeting, the heart and soul of the DST, to determine if this organization would be a good fit for Hollister. The closest meeting is held in San Jose every Wednesday at 12:30. I encourage you to Google their name and then check out their website. It is very powerful with a lot of good videos and interviews. Again, their name is Downtown Streets with an S, Team. And thank you.
Thank you.
Suzanne Dan.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Dam, and I live across the street from Dunn Park. And good evening, Good evening to all of you. And many of you sitting here have had conversations with me before. You know, my husband, my sister, and I have been talking about concerns at Dunn Park for the past 5+ years. The problem, while at times gets better, has gotten worse. At the last council meeting, you heard from many people, including business owners, Chamber of Commerce, and neighbors from around the park. Several of these people have been involved in trying to help the city and the residents through work, volunteerism, and philanthropy. After the last council meeting, the Benito Link article and subsequent comments focused on homeless persons and their rights, as though the rights of the homeless had been questioned by those who asked for the illegal behavior at Dunn Park to be addressed and stopped. I believe the issue has been misrepresented as strictly a homeless problem. The issues at Dunn Park are a lack of compliance with state and federal laws and city ordinances. Many of the individuals causing problems at Dunn Park do not appear to be homeless, but they are violating the law. No one has the right to urinate in public, expose themselves in public, be drunk or under the influence in public, take illegal drugs, litter, or yell endless obscenities. The problem at Dunn Park has been elevated by some organizations and some individuals. People are dropped off at Dunn Park by county van pool, by taxis, by private vehicles, by out-of-town agencies. Many new faces have been appearing in the park. Not-for-profit organizations bring food on a regular basis, and while the gesture is laudable, the result is bringing more people and more law-breaking to Dunn Park. In addition to the violations pointed out at the last meeting, it appears that regular sales of various substances occur daily. Vehicles drive up, they have a short conversation and drive away. People walk up, have a short conversation, walk away. And other times people come and they browse through carts of possessions, they leave with stuff. and it appears that there's a list being kept by a person recording transactions as they happen. Do we know what's being sold? No. But given the objects the park cleanup crew finds on a regular basis, we can make an educated guess. We're not asking you to solve the entire homeless problem or infringe on the rights of the homeless. What we are asking is to assure the safety and well-being of the community around Dunn Park. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marty Richmond?
Good evening again, Marty Richmond from Hollister. I'd like to mirror some of those comments made by the previous speaker. I don't live near Dunn Park, so it's not affecting me personally. But I've made a lot of comments online about this problem, so I'd like to talk about those. One thing I am really nervous about is people who are walking around the community going, oh, don't worry, they're going to build a homeless shelter here. It'll be finished in November, with the assumption that that's going to solve our problems. I think anybody familiar with this issue knows that that is not going to solve our problems, because there are parts of the population involved here who have mental issues, have substance abuse issues, and do not want to follow the rules or cannot follow the rules, even if they want to follow the rules. And those people don't do well in the shelter. In fact, many times they avoid the shelter at all costs, because one thing for sure about the shelter, it's a government operation, and the first thing they have is rules galore. Okay, so a lot of times they look through your stuff to make sure you have no illegal substances, or they check you out to see if you're not carrying a knife or whatever it is, and people say, well, give that up to go in the shelter, and the population says no. So it's a complex issue. However, this business of don't worry, they're building a shelter and it'll be ready in November. I have no doubt the shelter in November is a laudable project, to use a nice word used by the previous speaker, and that it will help some people. But it's not going to solve the problem. So we have to start coming up with some, if you're going to corner me and ask me if I have one, the answer is no, but we're going to have to come up with some unique projects or ways of trying to handle this, because it is not good for any side. One of the things that I'm really concerned about is, a year or two ago, we changed the law in California concerning mental health, and we put in the Mental Health Act, and we started pouring money, a special tax, doesn't affect me, it's a millionaire's tax. We started pouring money, a countless amount of money, into the mental health system, and I can't see anything coming out the other side. Okay, I don't see any big, a big program of mental health concerning people who have these problems. And if you read the report from the grand jury that was already online about our problems with stacking 5150, and I will wrap up by our stacking 5150 people at the hospital here, which we can't handle. So we better start working on it, because it's only going to get worse. Thank you,
Mr. Richmond.
There are no more speakers, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. Move forward to item D31, City Manager's Report.
I have nothing to report at this time.
We'll move on to item F51.
So good evening. This item is basically an oral staff report regarding aerators and floating island proposal that was looked at a number of years ago. So the engineering staff in the Hollister City Council reviewed at a study session in February 2015 floating island proposal to be installed at the industrial wastewater treatment plant. The proposal did not mature beyond the proposal stage. It was evaluated and determined to not be an acceptable solution to the sludge problem at the industrial wastewater treatment facility for treating tomato waste. Because of that proposal, staff took a look at other options, other types of aerators with the horsepower needed for the facility to treat the tomato waste. This resulted in a more efficient aerator proposal that is currently being looked at and evaluated. These aerators do not throw water into the air, but by using compressor injects air into the impellers for better mixing. Some of the comments that when we talked about the first aerator proposal, one, we've got a number of experts to take a look at the floating island proposal. One was from the Gilroy wastewater treatment plant operator, where some of the things that he thought were problems with the proposal. In fact, the biggest problem with that proposal was a potential permit violations, and those are things that we really do not want to get into, as we've had some occurrences lately that we don't want to get into again. There's one of the proposal didn't have any referrals or sample projects that they could use as an example for it. He thinks that there's going to be a problem with maintenance to start off with, and long-term maintenance and performance issues, potential issues with those. We also asked Cecile DiMartini from the Central Coast Regional Water Quality Control Board on what they thought about this, and the biggest comment that they gave was that she's not sure this type of treatment will survive the low to zero flows of the that we experience at the industrial wastewater treatment plant. So we did take a look at proposals, and what we did is we landed on an aerator that is a non-splash aerator that will inject oxygen or air into the ground. And we have a couple people here that I'd like to have come up and talk about their expertise. One is Lloyd Bracewell. He prepared a technical memorandum. We have our current operator for Veolia, Jim Heitzman, and we have Sam Humphrey from San Benito Foods. So with that, I'd like to have introduce Lloyd Bracewell for him to talk about his memo.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. 2 years ago, I was asked by San Benito Foods to prepare an evaluation of the floating islands concept as a treatment system to be used at the industrial treatment plant. We took a look at it, but it was clear fairly early on that this was a technology that was intended for wetlands and not for high-strength waste. There is virtually no installation in the world that we can find that actually treats this kind of waste. There is a system in New Zealand that is touted, but it's a pond that has a floating island on it, completely covering the pond so that the pond itself is septic. And it doesn't cause odors because it has this living biomass on top, but the water has to go somewhere from that pond. And then what happens to it will determine whether there are any odor problems or not. But as a technology, that certainly can work for a high-strength waste. But in this case, they're talking about putting 4 floating islands that are 500 square feet each, 2,000 square feet total, for a pond that has almost 1 million square feet. So this is like 0.2% being covered by a floating island. And then on top of that, it's proposing to have, these things are called Leviathans. They have a 5.5 horsepower airlift pump that pumps water in the pond onto the vegetation in this island, and somehow that is supposed to provide enough oxygen for the high-strength waste coming in. The high-strength waste coming in the peak month is about 30,000 pounds of oxygen demand. A 5.5 horsepower airlift pump, if I granted it the maximum possible oxygen efficiency, which is using a very fine bubble system, that would only be 1,000 pounds of oxygen per unit, a maximum of 4,000, and I would bet they couldn't do even 25% of that. So the amount of oxygen that this system can possibly produce is way below what will be needed to meet the oxygen demand. So this pond should go septic very quickly. So we concluded that this technology might be suited for wetlands, and they have a number of installations. We looked it up, what they've done since the proposal in the last 2 years. And they have several, or maybe a dozen, it's hard to know. Their website is very unclear. There's not much scientific information there. Testimonials and data which is not supported. There are no engineering studies, no scientific studies. So it's very hard to evaluate. Our conclusion is that, based upon science, this cannot possibly work with a high-strength waste. I can answer any questions if you have any.
So here's the problem. A few years ago, we started talking about ways to address this issue, and we started looking for new alternative ways, something that can help solve this problem. Now, this idea was talked about in a way that wouldn't accomplish the goals, as you're pointing out. What would accomplish it, according to others, I'm not going to say yourself because I don't think you were here, was that if we remove the sludge, this problem would go away and we'd be fine. And I remember this conversation because I wasn't very happy about it. I said, all we're doing is kicking the ball down the road. It's not going to solve the problem. Lo and behold, the problem came back with a vengeance on us. So all the experts that were experts that told us what was going to solve this problem were absolutely wrong and were nowhere to be found when the problem hit us this summer. Now I'm hearing that, well, because of this proposal, we have another idea, though. We could look at the subsurface aerators. Maybe that's a good idea. I want to know why that wasn't brought up back then. And I also want to know why the information was not given to the people that were trying to give us information on this, that they needed the information, what was in that water, and they could never get all the information needed. These are the problems. What I'm hearing, what I'm seeing today is another fix. And what I'm predicting is another problem, maybe not this summer, a lot of rain, but again, we're going to have the same problem. And all of us here are going to face the same problem over and over again because we refuse to look at different ways of handling this problem. Now, I can understand your concerns. But if we don't look at alternative methods, we're going to keep repeating the same problem. And it might have been okay for whatever reason 20, 30 years ago when people accepted it. There are new subdivisions next door to that area now. Not to mention all the existing homes that have been put up with it for too many years. So I want to know, when the problem hits, who do we go to?
Well, I think there are two issues here. One of them is what the problem actually is. And it's my understanding that the problem is the smell of tomatoes. And unless you remove the tomatoes, you cannot remove the smell. All you can do is pump oxygen into the water to keep it from going septic and creating foul odors. Now, if the system is going septic anyway, then that's a whole different problem. It's not what I'm aware of. I'm only aware of the
Well,
fact
it wasn't the smell of tomatoes that was making people sick in their homes.
But
it was much worse than the smell of tomatoes. It smelled like a sewer.
Right. Well, from the sewer itself, if that's not controlled, the sewer as it comes into the plant can cause an odor problem.
All I know is there was residents, and I drove these things because they called me at night, and I went to go drive them at midnight. And I felt bad for all those residents in that area because it was horrible. And for us to say, well, geez, that didn't work, that we spent $1 million to pull out sludge that would solve the problem, and now we're hearing something else that might solve the problem. I just want to know who to blame when this thing goes bad again.
Unfortunately, I can't answer those questions.
I figured that.
So,
Councilmember Friend?
Maybe if I can ask that we hold off questions until we're done with, and I'll be more than happy to stand up here and address your questions and ask the appropriate person to come up and address those questions as they come up. But right now, what I'd like to do is introduce.
It's a little late. A statement's been made, and it's just going to sit out there without anybody being able to say anything back.
That's a, Councilmember Clower, please feel free to.
The floating islands thing, when it came up 2 years ago, was one of the first things that I voted on.
I remember.
And part of the problem was that no expert said that it would work. I gave it a good shot. I'm giving it a good shot today, but I still haven't heard anybody say that it would actually work. Now, if I remember correctly, we removed the sludge, and that actually fixed that issue. That has not been an issue again. The issue last year was that we had some tomato waste escape at the West Street diversion. Unless I'm completely misunderstanding this, because I don't think that there's been an issue with the smell because of the sludge like there was 2 years ago. We spent $2 million on it. 10 feet of sludge or whatever was taken out. I don't think it's the same thing.
It was, just so we're clear, it wasn't from the storm line, it was from the ponds.
But the problem was that we had sludge that was exposed, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Have we had sludge that's been exposed since we took out the sludge?
No.
Okay.
No, the problem happened after we pulled the sludge out, just so we're clear on this.
Last year we had
the problem happened after we pulled the sludge out.
Last year we had a waste that was known as that San Benito Foods got was limited use tomatoes, and Mr. Humphrey will be able to tell you about the limited use tomatoes that came in. That made it for a very challenging problem in trying to keep the odors that occurred coming from the industrial wastewater treatment plant. Hopefully we've addressed that, in that if one of the things we've already talked about with San Benito Foods is that if they are going to be getting limited use tomatoes, they will notify us well in advance so that we have enough opportunity to get the plant running appropriately to accept those the limited use tomato waste. Mr. Humphrey will tell you what the limited use tomatoes are, and Mr. Heitzman from Veolia will be able to explain to you more on why they're a challenge to treat. So it was the floating islands that got us looking for other options. Floating islands was the first proposal. It proved out to not be a realistic proposal, but we did look, and we did find that utilizing a different type of aerator, an aerator that does not throw the water up in the air, but an aerator that mixes underneath the surface, that will inject the air underneath the surface, that not only will you eliminate the water going up in the air, you're going to get a much deeper penetration of the air, the oxygen, into the ponds. That's going to make for a much more efficient way to treat the waste, and it will also eliminate, I can't say it will eliminate all, but it will eliminate a lot of potential odors that were derived from water being thrown up in the air. This is probably the best that we can come up with at this time. We're still evaluating. We're still evaluating what we can do to improve the ponds. San Benito Foods already injects enzymes into the plant at the beginning of the season before tomatoes come down, and then they inject enzymes at the plant so that it's already reacting and with the waste as it hits the industrial plant. So we are taking measures, and I would be lying to you if I sat here and tell you that I can eliminate every last odor. Things happen. Just like last year, we had an issue where the limited use tomatoes came in, and we weren't prepared for that. Now we are, and we will be. So that's where we're at with trying to make this plant a much more efficient and a much better plant. We do realize that we have the residential houses encroaching upon what used to be open fields. And we do realize that we need to do something. And with San Benito Foods' assistance and support by Veolia, we're coming to some solutions. And we were hoping that we would be able to install these new aerators this year. But because AMBAG has, it's not because of AMBAG, but AMBAG has been very helpful, very strongly pursuing different types of funding mechanisms for this. Of course, we did put in a project that the first year it went in and worked very well. Last year, because of the limited use tomatoes, we had to crank up all the aerators in order to keep the DO levels to where they're supposed to be to eliminate the odors. That caused a bigger usage in electricity, and because of that, because of artificial baselines that evaluators have used, we're not going to be able to use the same type of funding mechanism that we were looking at. Because of that, it's going to push the new aerators into being installed into next season, 2018, but we're prepared for this season. So with that, if I can continue with Mr. Heitzman.
Councilmember Friend.
I just have a couple questions on this
Sure.
real quick. If I remember right when we got into this, and I know the mayor and I dug into it quite a bit, the floating islands idea was part of a multi-stage setup. The injection of the enzymes and the bugs in the water was the major thing. With these new, and their aerators also injected oxygen below the surface because those bugs live on oxygen. They need that oxygen. So on one hand, this proposal you're saying sounds like it would be a better step to do. My concern is, are we still going to be using the can't remember the name of them, the bugs, for the lack of a better word, to eat that process? And I understand last year when the cannery came to us and said, hey, the tomatoes we got this year are different from the ones we normally get because of the drought. They had thin skin and all that stuff. This year we shouldn't see that issue. My concern is we dug the sledge out, so we've got that 20-foot of cushion now.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't do something with these bugs and get that oxygen in that water, in 5 years we're going to have sludge to the surface like we had before, and that's not going to work. So is that what part of this program is? We're not going to cut the bugs off. We're just going to aerate it better. Is it?
No, we're the bugs will still be injected by San Benito Foods. The amount of sludge that was removed actually gives us about a 20-year cushion. We're currently working on a new discharge permit with San Benito Foods, in which they're being asked to pay for future sludge removal by payment of a certain amount of dollars that will add up, and in 10 years we'll have a fund where we'll be able to remove more sludge. So as that account builds up, we'll be able to take out sludge. We're not. I don't see us getting into the position from here on out that we're going to have, a very minimal cover of sludge where an aerator will throw it up in the air, and that's part of what caused some of the odors in the past. So with the bugs and with the sinking fund, that San Diego Foods will be contributing towards the future removal of the sludge. That shows that a good management of the industrial plant, and at a certain point in time, it's time to remove the sludge. We'll have the funds to do so. The bugs will not get rid of the sludge. It may shrink it down a little bit, but over the years it will build up. I think we took about 20 years, 30 years of sludge out of the plant when we took sludge out. That was significant. And that gives us enough room that it can build up, and then we'll have some funds to remove the sludge when it's time.
Well, the other question I had was these new aerators. I know it costs about $180,000 a month to run the 5 that are currently out there. Are we looking at reducing that any?
Well, it's actually 20 aerators. It'll be down to 14, I believe.
It's actually 29 aerators, and it'll
Be down to 14 aerators, and they don't throw the water in the air. That's one of the problems. You go out there and you got nice, looks really nice when you got relatively clear water going up in the air, but once you may hit a pocket of bad water, gets thrown up in the air, and there may be an odor from that. Before we removed sludge, what was happening is the aerators we have now would hit a chunk of sludge, and all of a sudden this nice clear white water going in the air is now black or very dark brown. That's one of the problems where you got your sludge. Where you got your odor was when the sludge was going in the air. And so the new aerators eliminates that. Again, the oxygen's injected with the impellers, and it goes way down. Treats a much thicker portion of the pond, and so we have a much better, more efficient method of treatment.
But when you say more efficient, you're not saying cost less.
Well, yeah, it does. It's more energy efficient.
That's what I was asking, because
yes,
the ones that we have now are hugely ineffective and inexpensive to run.
Yeah, if we replaced the aerators now, the energy savings would have a payback in 6.4 years, according to one calculation.
Councilmember Luna.
Thank you for the report, Dave. I know the mayor mentioned that he had a concern because we have a new housing development there in that area.
Right.
That's my district.
Yes.
I live within that area. And if he went out there at midnight, I went out there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so you can imagine, what it was like during the day. But I'm thinking, if there any possibility that we can, I have the district meetings with constituents in my district, and I know that there's one coming up in May. Is there any possibility where we can get you and possibly the county to speak to a group of or the neighborhood that will be at the meeting?
Certainly.
Because I think they need to be informed. Right now, they're looking at the nice little park, and then they say there's a pond behind it. They don't know what really the pond is.
Right.
And so I really believe that by keeping people informed is a good idea, because later on, should anything happen and that odor comes up, and I'm hoping it doesn't, then people are informed, especially all this new development, all the neighborhood, that is really, a lot of the people are from out of the area, moved in.
Certainly, and we'd be happy to come. I can't speak about San Benito Foods. I'm looking at Sam right now. Yes, and he'd be more than welcome to come there. In fact, I would ask that Jim Heitzman from Veolia, who has spoke at your community meetings before, would also join us, and he would be able to talk about the technical goings on in the at the industrial plant. So I'm sure he
Actually,
would be
Jim
able to
gave
join
me a
us.
2-hour tour on that, so I'm yeah. So I'd like to see if we can arrange that.
We can do that. If you want to send me an email, tell
Sure.
me when that would be. We'll make that happen.
I can do that. Thank you.
The additional question I have for you, and
sure,
part of the frustration I have is this. It seems like we wait to the last minute, and now we're talking about something we can't do again this year. Although this is a conversation we had 3 years ago, I believe it was about 3 years ago, and we knew about these subsurface aerators that would not kick up the water, the sludge, and yet they're not in. So now we're going to miss another year, potentially. Hopefully with the rains, enough water, we don't have the problem this year. But it absolutely is going to happen again. And last year we received a fine, I believe, from the Air Board for the odors on this. And San Benito Foods needs to understand there's going to be a limit to this, and we can't keep going on. If this problem's not solved, we have to eliminate this problem.
So we can get the aerators in before the canning process. We have the ability, that company that's quoted us, they have the ability to be able to lease or rent or get us the equipment we need. Apparently they should be able to get it to us pretty quick. I can't guarantee that it'll be in before the processing season. Trying to put the new aerators in during the processing season may cause more problems than what we're trying to fix.
And I agree with
We're
you
also,
on that.
We also have been very aggressively trying to come up with a funding mechanism for that. PG&E, we were pursuing an on-bill financing at 0% interest that up until very recently was determined to be not feasible, and that included a rebate. So that wasn't feasible. And then we said, well, let's do it without the rebate. And so we were thinking that we would be able to get a 0% on-bill financing at 0%. Just found out today that that's not going to be feasible. And so there's a potential that there may be a 1% financing for from another state agency. But in the meantime, we'd be wanting to look at other options for funding this. It also involves San Benito Foods because they pay the cost.
I was going to say, isn't San Benito Foods going to pay the cost for these anyways?
They would pay the cost for these, so we have to work with San Benito Foods to be able to take all this in. They've been very good to work with. They've worked with Jim and myself, and with city staff, very nicely. And but again, we were on one track, and it got derailed twice, and now we're having to go to another, look for another way to get these things in at a beneficial financing. If the city council wants to tell us, here's the funds to put this in, we can get started and possibly get them in. But without a commitment from San Benito Foods for payback, it would be very difficult to tell them you have to pay us back. So, I mean, we're trying to do this the right way, and we can accelerate it. We can offer them a loan. We can do other things that that we can do for operating the plant. But it's something that we will have to go through the process.
I'm going to let you go on before I make any other comments. You had other speakers.
Okay, so my next speaker was going to be Jim Heitzman from Veolia, and I was hoping that he'll be able to discuss the new type of aerators, and I don't think we need to really talk about the issues with the floating islands. I think we've settled that, but if you can talk about the new aerators, that'd be great.
Thank you, David. Mr. Mayor, council members, apologize for the way I'm dressed. I was out there working, and David called me and reminded me we had a council meeting. So, anyway, my name is Jim Heisman with Veolia. We operate your wastewater facility, and I can answer a couple of the questions that I heard today. One from the mayor was if you can stop all odors. There are technologies, and there's infrastructure you can put in there. You have a couple problems. One, it's costly. Two, you only operate 7 weeks out of the year, so that cost gets escalated because you're not using that infrastructure 365 days. There are facilities that put a big dome over their ponds, and that helps eliminate all the odors because then they treat the air if you wanted to make a huge investment and put a big dome. So one of the things we do is we put the enzymes in there. Those enzymes actually are designed to treat tomato waste. So there was a lot of work put into those enzymes, not by Veolia, but by a company out of the Central Valley that deals strictly with tomato waste for a number of places, including San Benito Foods. The odors last year were a combination of the treatment plant and the storm drain. Councilmember Luna had a community outreach meeting, and there were a number of complaints about odors coming out of manholes. Manholes are not associated with the industrial facility. They're only for that storm drain. I do believe the city made the right investment. That issue is gone. So I think that the facility out there, your industrial, is doing what it's doing with the 1970, 80, and 90 aerators. This year, because of last year being surprised by the high sugar content of the tomatoes, which lead to a lot of extra food, and the microorganisms don't have a healthy population to treat that much, we're going to prep a lot earlier just in case. So we've been doing a lot of work out there. You'll see some aerators on if you looked out in the ponds. We'll be putting quite a bit of dog food out there, and the dog food has the fats, oil, and grease that those microorganisms need in order to get going along with those aerators. Also, when you talk about the sludge, you did take out a ton of sludge. The rain really doesn't affect the ponds one way or the other because the ponds get their water from the cannery, which pulls out well water. So we'll always have plenty of water. It's just the prep. The sludge, though, the Hollister winds, if you've never noticed, they come out almost every day, and they're really welcome because they take away the heat and all that. But they kind of, over a period of time, push the sludge into certain areas. When that sludge humps up, aerators can get them. These new aerators push much deeper into the pond, so they should flatten out the sludge and not have these little mountains of sludge inside your pond, which you took out 10 feet of sludge. It took 30 years, and at one time there were 3 canneries operating full-time, discharging there, and they didn't have near the pretreatment that San Benito County has invested in over the last couple of years. So my prediction would be with one cannery and the type of pretreatment they have, I think David is being conservative when he says in 20 years we'll be pulling sludge out. I think with the enzymes, the new treatment, and the fact that these aerators will flatten the sludge out in the pond, you're probably looking at a much longer period than 20 years before you have an issue with the type of sludge issue that you had before. We're very happy. Last year, like the mayor, we were up at 5 o'clock meeting San Benito Foods and doing order surveys. We're going back around at 7 and 8 o'clock. We went to every phone call, every person that asked us, every single house. And we had a little group of people that volunteered to call us and report us when the odors got bad, and the citizens of Hollister did a great job. We'll welcome anybody who wants to come for a tour and see what we're going to do. And anytime, we are looking forward to a couple of things. Is the old aerators do splash up in the air, the new ones don't. If you're replacing a horsepower, it's hard to imagine that 5 horsepower of compressors can deliver the amount of oxygen that 1,300 horsepower are delivering now today. The new aerators, being more efficient, still have a real high number of horsepower compared to 5. But they don't splash up, but they do make a ripple like a boat. And so it won't be that these things are just pushing air in. They have a mixer going that helps mix all that stuff up, but it's not shooting water into the sky. Veolia, myself, we're real happy about working with the City of Hollister. David, Billy, the San Benito County, the San Benito Foods have all been great partners, and we're hoping that we're like the first year after the sludge, we got 0 odor complaints. The second year, not so much, 0, which a lot of people weren't happy about, including us. We were probably the most unhappy because we're responsible for operating those. We do not have any violations, and I think it's important for the council and the city to understand that there's a BOD of somewhere between 1,500 and 2,800, 3,000, which is if you measure the BOD, which is a biological oxygen demand. How much oxygen does it take to convert this pollutant? What the normal waste strength of the BOD of the wastewater to the sewer plant is around 300. So this can be 5 times, 6 times, 7 times stronger. And though it's not sewage, it's running into a facultative pond, which has basically anaerobic or septic on the bottom and organisms that like air and aerobic on the top. And it takes a while to get these aerobic organisms to get rolling along. So again, we're going to turn on the aerators early, and San Benito Foods knows that. They pay the bill. And we're going to do the best we can. We're going to feed dog food, and we're going to get those enzymes in there early and then continue to measure. There is one other thing that we've worked with Danny Hillstack and David on is we'd like to see the pH a little bit lower because tomatoes are low pH and the enzymes are designed to work with a low pH, and San Benito County Foods is very happy to comply with that with their water. So they'll do a little treatment on their end before it comes down. If anyone has any questions for me.
Any questions?
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, with that, I'd like to introduce Sam Humphrey. He's the plant manager for San Benito Foods. I wanted to say the owner, but not quite.
Not quite. Mr. Mayor, council members, good evening. My name is Sam Humphrey. I'm the plant manager of San Benito Foods. I guess we should start by, I'll just kind of echo the sentiments what this gentleman had about the floating islands. San Benito Foods doesn't support that. We had an independent report done, and we just feel it's not applicable. However, we are 100% supportive of the new aerators, and we certainly understand the importance of not having any odors out at the ponds. We've had meetings with David and Jim for the last couple months to kind of go through everything that went wrong last year to cause the odors, and think we have a good plan. We know we have a good plan to avoid that this year. Jib had mentioned most of the things that we're going to do. In addition to those things, we have a way of tracking our limited use in our tomato trucks, and part of our operating procedure this year is going to be to actually blend some of those trucks to where you don't, have a big, to actually, what's the word I want to say? So we don't send a lot of limited use down into the system all at one time. With that, is there any questions from?
Any questions from council?
I have one question.
Sure.
It's unrelated. How many employees do you have that are full-time and seasonal?
Full-time is approximately 80 and 500 seasonals.
Thank you.
I will mention, David mentioned the funding of the aerators. San Benito Foods was prepared to fund that. There was a program with PG&E for a rebate, and we had planned on doing that, but the last couple weeks or so there's been some changes. So at this point I'm not in a position to say what we would do going forward, but we're definitely interested in getting the new aerators.
So here's a comment I'm going to make to you
Okay.
and everyone. Again, it's been 3 years. We've been talking about these things, and we're still talking about the subsurface aerators or different ideas, which we should have done long ago. We heard some of these ideas, and I understand there was not the confidence in the floating island, but obviously there was the idea of the subsurface aerators has caught people's attention, but we haven't done it. Now we're in May. Now we're talking about we're not going to do it because of some dollar issue. At the end of the day, your company has to be paying for this and should have paid for it at least 2 years ago. So maybe we wouldn't have this problem. The idea of we have a plan, I'm not going to buy it any longer because I sat here at this table with your company, Viola, and a few others from within our city, talking about making sure this would not happen again, how we're going to make sure we introduce enough water, enough dog food, everything into the pond so we didn't have the problem. Now I'm hearing, well, this year we're going to introduce dog food earlier. What happened to the plan before? And I know that's not your side of it. I understand
I couldn't
that.
comment to that, what happened
Well,
a year
the
ago.
point I'm making is the public's frustrated. I'm frustrated. I don't want to keep going through this over and over, and I'm not going to support going through it over and over. If this thing happens again, I'm not going to support continuing what we're doing here.
Mayor, I can assure you we don't support it as well. It's a topic of discussion daily, and we take it very, very seriously.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilmember Luna?
Just on another note, this community is actually held up by our local canneries. If people really think that over 500 people that are residents of this community, this city, work there, and that's their livelihood. And I really want to thank you for going through everything that we've gone through, but just to correct it and move forward, because after all, these are jobs that are needed in San Benito County and the city of Hollister, and we want them to remain. So I just want to thank you for that, and I want to make sure that we all work together to make it right so that our residents complain, of course, but then they complain about a lot of other things, and we need to work on those complaints because it's our residents and we care. We're here to represent them. But at the same time, I feel obligated just to say thank you because of those 500 jobs, of those families that are sustained by the cannery. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Okay. Do we have any speaker cards?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Marty Richmond.
I don't know, Marty Richmond, I don't know anything about waste management, so I'm not going to tell anybody how to fix the technical problem. But I know a lot about addressing technical problems. You know, for several years I was a safety manager out here in a highly hazardous material atmosphere. And you know, one thing I learned with doing that, 22 years in the service, I did the same work, same kind of work. And when you're fixing last year's problem, you're in trouble. Okay, what you're supposed to be doing is avoiding next year's problem. So I don't know if we need aerators or islands or whatever, but my concern is what I hear here from the engineering guys, what I hear here from San Benito Foods is the same thing. Well, last year, here's what happened. So we're going to do this to fix what happened last year. 2 years ago, here's what happened. So we're going to do that to fix what happened 2 years ago. I don't hear anybody talking about what's going to happen next year or the year after that. That's the way you do this. That's the way you avoid these problems. You start looking at the future and everything that can happen, and you look at it and you do an analysis, and then you start putting in systems to avoid those problems. And so when they happen, and they always happen, you've already got your solution in place so they don't occur. That concerns me more than anything because I don't know what's going to happen next year, and neither does anybody else here who's not in the tomato canning business or in the treatment of wastewater business. That's the way you handle these kind of things. So I did hear somebody say, I think it was a gentleman from Veolia, and I've worked with Veolia for years in hazardous material business, and I know they know their business. I heard a gentleman say there are ways to get no odors at all. Just put a dome over it. Right? Isn't that what he said? Treat the air. Foolproof. You put a dome over it, treat the air. So let's put a dome over it. Let's treat the air. Somebody's going to say, well, it's expensive. Well, guess what? You might make that back in the value of the houses here. Because let me tell you, a house near a sewer pond that stinks has got a lot less value than a house where it doesn't stink. They're only, although I agree, some people, 500 people work there on a part-time basis, but they don't work there very long every year. The people who live there all year long. They're there all year long. During that period of time when the sewer plants plants in operation, it needs not to pollute the air. It's that simple. Please start looking forward instead of backward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No other?
There are no more speaker cards, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
Did you have something else you wanted to add?
I just wanted to add that we are taking steps to try and eliminate any potential odor and for instance, with the recently approved diversion structure that will keep, well, the intent is to keep the odors out of that storm drain line. And so the people who complained about having odors coming out of their manholes, we suspect that that's going to stop. Again, I would be lying to you to say that I can guarantee there will be no odors. I would like to say there will be no odors. I can pretty well anticipate there to be no odors, especially coming down the apricot line. And for information, the diversion structure is scheduled to be placed next week, and well in time before the Samuel Foods begins operation. So we will continue to put forward the new aerators. In the meantime, we will still look at if there is any other options available out there that we don't know about. And if we come up with something better, we'll definitely be shooting for that kind of a solution. So with that, I appreciate you listening. I appreciate the discussion. It's very enlightening to hear what all the council members have to say, and we will take that to heart, and we will try and get and take care of the issue. And as Mr. Richmond says, try and look at what will be the next problem coming up. So with that, I'd like to say thank you. And
well, thank you for the report, but can we get something back from you if there's a way, if the plant finds a way to finance this and we go ahead with these new aerators that they're installed?
We will have to come back to you for whatever we plan on doing. If we have to go back and do if we're going to come back to you for financing, usually it's it's a loan or a grant or something like that. We will have to come back to you for final approval.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item F52.
Good evening. This item is requesting the approval of the proceedings for the levy and collection of annual assessment for the Landscape and Lighting District, number 93-1, and order the city engineer to prepare and file the required special district report for fiscal year 2017-2018. Each year, the annual renewal proceedings must be initiated with the resolution of the District 93-1. Currently, staff is working getting the required data for the preparation of the engineer report, collection roll, boundary diagram, and budget to complete the district annual report.
Okay, any questions from council? No questions? Any speakers?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much. We'll go on to item 53. Now, is this the property over there?
Yeah.
North Street, where I'm going to recuse myself. There might be a potential conflict. I do work for one of the low-income affordable housing builders. So I'm going to pass the gavel to Vice Mayor Clower.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This item is for a reimbursement agreement for De Nova Homes, also known as North Street Property, with a marketing name of Allendale. So during the life of a development, the project usually comes in with its first name, and then it morphs into another name, and then eventually the marketing name will take hold. So we're talking about De Nova Homes with two other aliases, and I believe their marketing is going to be Allendale. Is that correct? Yes. So this item is to approve a reimbursement agreement for improvements that will be installed along North Street that would normally be would have been a city responsible project. And so because they're coming in, we have the ability to, and we ask them to put these improvements in, and we would pay for them. So this would be approving a reimbursement agreement between the city and De Nova Homes. Questions?
Thank you. Councilmember Lynn, any questions?
Yes, I do. I noticed that there was a report with the amount of the revenue reimbursement, and it comes from Carlson, Parby, and Gibson Incorporated. Now, does the city have their own report with the same amount?
So what we do is we basically accept the estimate that the engineers will present to us. We look at it, we review it, we make sure that everything seems reasonable. It seems reasonable. We actually pay actual cost for the reimbursement. So when everything's all said and done, they'll bring us a request for payment and all the justification, which could include contractors' contracts, canceled checks, whatever it may be that they would give us to show that they actually paid this money out and how much it was. And so when we get that, and what we have done in the past, we'll come back to you with an actual cost for reimbursement. And that would be the final action, and that's the city council saying, yes, we accept that dollars and start the reimbursement process. And however they get it, whether it be by fee credits or the city providing a check to them.
Okay, because the report that is attached is their report.
Yes.
And what I was looking for is the city report to see if there was any document indicating the same amount.
But what we do, like I said, we review, and make sure that their report is correct, that they're not throwing any unit costs in there that are abnormal, that they're not saying $500 a linear foot for curb and gutter, but they're saying it's within the $10 to $15 a linear foot. However, whatever it may be. I'm just throwing numbers out there as an example. So when it comes back, we will review and make sure that the dollars they actually spent are the dollars that are being reimbursed.
Okay, so you did have the opportunity to review this report, though?
Yes.
You did?
Yes.
Okay. Another comment I just wanted to make is that the fact that when a development such as this is coming into a neighborhood in an area within the city, I really want to just say that I'm glad that NOVA, or what is it, Allendale now project, has informed the public and has had meetings to inform the neighborhood. so that they are informed and questions and calls are not made after the fact that they see, actually development moving forward. As a lot of people on the west side are looking at tractors and everything else, earth movers over there, I'm getting the calls because they're thinking, we didn't know what is going on. So, I really appreciate the fact that when these developments can hold meetings and bring people together just to inform them, that's a big plus and I do want to commend you for doing that. So that was my commentary.
Okay, and I do want to say that the developers, Mr. Evans and Mr. Brigantino and others are here, Mr. Fuller are here if you have questions for them directly.
Councilmember Friend, any comments or questions?
No, yes, I do. I do want to thank the developer for the last meeting. We had questions about the phasing and how the pricing was going to be and the reimbursement was going to roll out, and they provided us with the additional information to do that. So I want to thank them for taking that time to, in layman's terms, explain to this how we're going to get this progress and go through. And I agree with this project, or North Street extension, has been on the books 25 years that I know of, and probably a long time before that. And to see the fact that because of this development, we actually get it done is pretty cool. I like that. I think that's going to add a lot to reduce our traffic on 4th Street, because people will now be able to get on the west side in another direction. So I think that's going to be excellent. That's it.
Councilmember Gillia?
Yes, thank you. I spent quite a bit of time researching this as a new council person because I didn't have the history. I wanted to echo councilperson's friend's comments that North Street, if you walk out right out here into the lobby, hang a right and look at the map on the wall, you'll see a road called North Street there that connects all the way from San Felipe over to Calavera Cemetery, and it never happened, probably because we didn't have the funds to get it done. I appreciate the developer, from what I can see, doing this project correctly, and the fact that we're going to be able to afford to extend North Street. It's going to be 4 lanes potential. I think it's going to be striped originally with 1 going each way and a turning lane in the middle.
Yes.
However, it has the potential to be 2 and 2 either way.
Yes.
The right of way. So I'm very impressed with that. The other thing I was very impressed with was I attended the Planning Commission meeting, and I noted that the developer has gone above and beyond with the park structure within the development. I'm very impressed with that, and the fact that they're able to do that without seeking more reimbursement or funds. And then there's an affordable housing portion to this, and then there's 3-stepped housing affordability ranges within the development. I'm pretty impressed so far with the development. I hope it continues going this way.
How does the reimbursable estimate compare to the TIF project estimate? Because I know that we have a number that was set aside for this project because it's on the list.
The initial estimate is that it's considerably less than the TIF project.
Okay.
Yeah.
So considerably less,
maybe
millions?
half to 2/3
of the
cost.
total cost?
Yes.
Okay, so that's good. You said that the developer, we will be paying actual cost. Is there a management fee on this? Because on some of the other reimbursement agreements we've had certain percentage that for managing the project.
That wasn't part of what I've seen in the reimbursement.
Okay, because I know when we did the playground, there was I think 15% was the management.
The 15% was the developer's cost to manage the project. It was not the city's cost for managing the project. We receive a considerable engineering and inspection fee that takes care of any of the costs that the city incurs for during construction and for inspection and plan checking, and this would be part of it. But the 15% on the playground is is the dollar amount that I believe Benchmark is who you were talking about. Benchmark paid this Cahill, I'm sorry, it was the Lad Ranch Cahill-Valian subdivider. That's their cost to manage the project.
Okay. And then I would just like to make a recommendation that we look at adding a lighted crosswalk somewhere along North Street, because it is great that it looks like we're going to be getting a trail that's going to connect this project to Park Hill, but you're going to have a number of people and probably a lot of kids that are trying to get across this awesome new street, and if they don't have a way to get across, then that just creates more problems.
So I'd like to tell you that during the Planning Commission approval on Thursday night, that item was added to the conditions of approval. Exactly where that crosswalk will occur will depend on engineering evaluation. Because of the hill and the curve, there needs to be adequate sight distance and an adequate opportunity for a driver to see and react to the lights going off. So whether it goes one way or the other, the starting place is at the intersection of, I believe, there A Street and North Street. It may slide down, and if it were to slide down, it'd probably be about the location where the trail going up to Park Hill would be constructed.
Okay.
So it was there, it is there, it's part of the conditions of approval already.
Perfect. Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments before we open it up? Okay. Let's open it up to public comment.
I'd like to make.
There are no speakers.
Okay,
I'd like
we'll
to make a
close
motion
public
that
comment.
we accept item 53-1.
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right, we'll move forward to item G61, reports from city council members regarding their committees. Councilmember Luna.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I attended the Area Agency on Aging on Wednesday, or April the 19th, at the Watsonville Community Center. I had been appointed as vice chair, so our chair was not there. He was in Sacramento, and so I chaired that meeting.
Okay. Is that it? Councilmember Friend?
I have no report.
Vice Mayor Clower?
Yes, I attended a community feedback meeting for the trash collection contract JPA committee. It was very insightful. There was essentially nobody there, but there was good information. We need to do a much, much better job at recycling and also sending our food waste and our green waste somewhere else other than the landfill. Our numbers are not very good at this point. So that was something that the committee was going to look at when we go out for either contract negotiations or an RFP. So hopefully, I didn't attend the second one on last Thursday, so hopefully some people showed up to that one. But there were about 40 or 50 surveys that were submitted, so that was good.
Councilmember Guillier, you're off the hook on this one?
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Good answer. I attended the COG meeting. The conversation was about SB 1, the new taxes that are going into place, I believe, June 1st. The city's portion of that will be about $800,000. The county's will be about $2.2 million. So the city will still have to come up with another at least $2 million if we really want to, at a minimum, start doing some work on our roads. So although the $800,000 helps, it's nowhere near what we need to do the improvements we need to do in the city of Hollister. We are looking at alternate ways to try to raise some more funds, see what we can do together with the county, city, see if we can share some costs and see if we can be a little more efficient on road repairs. The other meeting I attended with LAFCO meeting, the main conversation was if the city could provide services such as sewer and water outside of the city limits or sphere of influence, and the state law prohibits us from doing that unless we make an exception to make some exceptions. A lot more information to come on that, and we're still going to be having more meetings on that discussion. That is it from my committees. Informational reports from City Council. Councilmember Luna.
I attended the San Benito County Water Forum on Friday, the 21st of April at San Juan Oaks. Very informative. A lot of people were there. And I also met with the superintendent of schools on Tuesday, the 25th, regarding immigration issues at the city schools. And I thought that was something that I think that we all care about and need to really look at. I believe there was every superintendent from every school and principals, so it was very interesting. I just want to thank I'm not sure what department it was. They cleaned up the West Side Boulevard graffiti because it's gone now, and I'm hoping it stays off. And again, I want to mention the concern about Dunn Park. I drive by there every day, and I drive around. It's the same people, and now there's a humongous cart blocking the sidewalk right by the barbecue area. I don't know what we can do about that, but it's blocking it. And I noticed that there was quite a few children playing and parents in the playground at the time that I went by in the afternoon. So, and also, Mr. Mayor, I'm hoping that those garage sale signs, let me tell you, this weekend I must have had like 11 calls, and there was like 12 signs on of the same address, garage sale.
Suter Street.
On stop signs, street signs, signal lights. No, Monica Court.
Okay.
And I finally found out where it was at, so I just drove by. But, you know, apparently the neighbors say this garage sale happens like every 2 weeks. And I'm not sure what we can do about it, but maybe if we had a fee of people starting to have to pay for getting a permit for these garage sales. I'm not sure if that would work, but the signs have to come down. I mean, it was horrible. All the new development on Apricot Lane and around there had blue signs with humongous black tape wrapped around the poles. You know, I stopped on a couple of them to take a picture because that tape, you could see it as you were driving by. And it's a real shame. It's a new development, and all these signs are up. So I'm not sure what we can do about it, but I really would like to maybe have some kind of study half an hour or an hour during our retreat on what we can do.
We can issue fines, and we've talked about this before, and we're going to need to issue fines.
We need
because
to.
It's happening again.
We need to. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Friend?
Yeah, I just have a couple quick comments. One, the American Legion Riders of California had their convention last weekend, and I just want to thank the people in Hollister and the city workers from Hollister. They really put on a good show, and the city opened up. A lot of the stores stayed open on Saturday downtown so that those people could wander our streets, and we had about 250 delegates, probably another 60 or 70 people that showed up at non-delegates, and it came off very well. We had a dinner dance Saturday night, and everybody was just ecstatic about being in Hollister, and they really liked it. In fact, they wanted us to do it again next year, and we said, just because of what it took to put it on. But we'll have it again probably in a couple of years. But they really loved. The only thing was that there was no place to stay in Hollister, and they all had to drive. So that kind of put a crimp to it. But they're bikers, and they like riding their bikes back and forth to the motel. So thank you for the city and everybody else that was involved in it, and thanks to the Public Works people that helped us block off that street. That was excellent. That's it.
Vice Mayor Clark.
Yes, I'd like to say welcome to the team, to Councilmember Gillio. I think it's going to be a great fit, and I look forward to working with you and the rest of the council members to get a lot of things done in the next 16 months or 20 months or whatever it is. We have the council retreat next Monday, the 8th in the afternoon. I'm very excited about that. I've been looking forward to that for 5 months. So that's
here yet.
awesome. We're going to find out what everybody's goals and objectives are and think big picture, and going to hopefully take care of some of the ideas that Marty has been trying to get us to look forward instead of back. So that's exciting. And then the last thing, on Saturday night, I went and watched Seussical, the musical, at the Granada Theater. And it's a very interesting show. There's some really talented kids in our community, though, especially I don't really know their names, honestly, because I don't really know too many of them. But there's a girl who plays a sour kangaroo or something. She has a really good voice. So I think they're running it for another week or something. It's definitely worth checking out. I don't know how much it costs because my wife bought the ticket, but I can't imagine it was too much.
Okay, Councilman Gillio.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you all formally for appointing me to this position. I look forward to working with all of you. And I'm not sure what the joke is because everybody's laughing about the retreat, but I'm actually really excited about the retreat. I'm looking forward to working with you all to set a vision for our community and for the future. And, you know, we need to do that for our staff so that they can follow our vision and make the vision come to fruition. And I think that's our job as a council, is to set that vision. Mr. Friend, Councilmember Friend, I stopped by the American Legion Riders and said hi to a few folks in the lobby. You guys happened to be in session when I stopped by, so I missed it. But I did buy a raffle ticket, so if I win that bike, you guys will probably need to select a new council member because I'll probably crash it. So
We need new
I might need
members.
to donate it. I wanted to thank the police department. We had this little downtown crime wave. We had this kid breaking into a lot of storefronts downtown, smashing doors. Kind of smash and grab, and really frustrating because the amount of money that he was able to get away with was very slim, and he caused a lot of damage and heartache for the store owners. So thank you to the officers that actually did that work and went out there and viewed the video. The cameras worked out amazing. I'm not speaking for the chief, and I don't know the details of the case, but I imagine it may not have been solved without the cameras, it sounds like, based on what I saw in the press releases. So way to go. Great job. That's tough work. Real quick comment that you guys, I think we should all be aware of as far as crime. And crime is obviously got to be in the forefront of our future. California passed Proposition 57 this year, Proposition 47 in 2014, and Assembly Bill 109, AB 109 in 2011. All of these bills / propositions have lowered the responsibility and classifications for different crimes. Felonies went to misdemeanors, misdemeanors went to infractions. People that should be on probation and parole are potentially not being monitored. So we just need to be aware of that as a council and pay attention, and that's all. I just wanted to bring it up so that we're all aware of these issues. And as we see crime potentially rise, we need to focus on that. And I'm not sure exactly what we can do yet as a council, but perhaps we can talk about it at our retreat. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I want to thank everyone that came out and took a walk in their high heel shoes, all the men in town that took the walk last weekend, and we walked by your event.
It was
too.
cute.
Birdie.
Perfect timing.
Yeah. A lot of fun and a good cause, so thank you everyone that comes out. Hopefully next year we can really focus on getting some of the young men out that would learn and appreciate or understand how important it is to respect women. Also, I've been going back and forth with Caltrans. They do have a work order now to go out and clean up Airline or the National Park Highway between Santa Ana and Sunny Slope. The weeds we've been seeing out there for quite a while. There is a work order out there, and I'm hoping that's going to happen soon. It's been way too long, but the conversation I did have with the person in charge was she seemed to be very helpful, so I'm looking forward to that happening. Councilmember Luna, I agree with you. I saw the garage sales signs again this weekend all over town. we need to issue the fines and the citations. It's just not fair to the other residents of the city to have to put up with that. And it's amazing to me that the person that puts up 10, 20 of them leaves them all up. You think if they put that many out, they would pull them back and use them again sometime, but they leave them there, and we just can't tolerate it any longer. Received the first half of the payment for the rally tonight from the promoter, so that looks like it's a go, and we're looking forward to that event right around the corner here. So, and last, I want to congratulate all the teachers tonight that are receiving Teacher of the Year awards tonight for all the work they've done. And it's usually I'm there at the event, but tonight we have our meeting. But congratulations to all of them. City Manager?
I just wanted to let everybody know that we are going to have our retreat at around 1 o'clock on Monday the 8th. We will make adjustments to our budget that week, and we hope to begin budget study sessions the following week or the week of the 15th. Hopefully we can get into your schedules probably the Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday night of that week to go through the budget for next fiscal year. With that said, we are looking at having our, Dave, help me out, the Explorers 5K is on the 13th.
Correct, the 5K foot pursuit at Brigantino Park.
And it is at the Brigantino Spray Fields this year. In the past, it's been downtown, so we're going to try something new out there. And if any of you are runners or walkers, please come out.
City Attorney?
Nothing to report, thank you.
Chief?
Yeah, so we had our second or third rally meeting today with the folks that are going to be involved in it, also with of course, the promoter. Everything looks like it's on track. Looks like that we're going to have should be a pretty busy event from what I'm gathering from our promoter. Again, yeah, Billy kind of stole my thunder on the foot pursuit. That's okay. But that's coming up. It's the second one. We're pretty excited about that. It's to benefit our Explorer program and send them to camp, actually. And that's about it. We met with City Attorney last Thursday regarding several issues, but one of the things was exploring some solutions for our homeless population here in town. See if we can do something about that and not only work with it, but also maybe have some ordinances that would be effective and all that. I'm also going to meet with our city, our county sheriff, the district attorney, and the presiding judge to also discuss some other alternatives we may have as well. Thank you.
Assistant City Clerk?
I just wanted to remind everyone that the farmers market's starting May 3rd, and it will run through September 27th, 3 to 7:30. So to remind the community to get out there and shop.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. H, I, J, and K, there's no business.
Move for adjournment.
Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight.